Hello and welcome everyone to the Infinite Tavern podcast where we all just sit and just chat about TTRPGs, our experiences, our what we have to say, what we have to discuss, and we'll just get onto that eventually. But I am Aman. I have been avid D&D and TTRPG fan for the past few years, which is barely more than 2 years. And I have my co-host with me, Anurag, also known as Raghav. He was actually my second DM, but so far he has not DM'd me since that, apart from one other time. So I'm looking forward to another game for that. And he has been playing D&D and he has been DMing for way long than I have. And today, ladies and gentlemen, we have a guest, the inarticulate Void.
Oh my god! Who's this?
Yeah, our first guest, honestly. I think the first time I think I DM'd Void for a Cursor Start game, and then Void just diverted from there, and he's been DMing a lot of indie games from what I've seen. I mean, every time
Yeah,
he puts up a post for a game, he's been talking about different TTRPG systems. So Void, yeah, why don't you just tell us a little about yourself, at least not to us, at least to the listening audience.
awesome. So yes, I am inarticulate Void. You can just call me Void, and I go by Tanmay in the mid space, I guess. And I have been into the hobby for over 2 years now. Like just like probably yeah, we Anurag got into the hobby probably slightly before me, and Aman and I somewhere in the same ballpark. Um, like others, I started with D&D, played that for a year, and then sort of steered away into other TTRPG systems, like ranging from larger publishers like really indie games, some OSR, NSR stuff as well. What can I say? I like running improv games and improv heavy games, and that involved like sort of minimal prep. And recently, I've also been getting into more narrative and things. So yeah, that's me.
All right. So I think your first one of your first games was the Cursor Start thing, right?
Yes, the one that I joined with you. The first game that I read.
Yeah, I do
Yeah,
remember
so
that.
yeah, yeah,
You had to drop because you said you would be running a Cursor Start of your own,
game myself.
and
Yeah.
yeah, I didn't know what to do with your character then, so I just had your character just turn into a zombie and just attack the other
Oh my
the rest of
god.
the party.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
So right. Yeah.
you true DMing, and that was the best option I could see. And actually, one of the characters' backstory was also her loved ones turning into zombies. So I think it fit her backstory well.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Glad to be a friend.
so but how did you get into TTRPGs though? What's your backstory?
Um, my backstory. Okay. I don't have like a binder or anything for my backstory. It's just a really small one. I again, like many others, I heard about D&D through pop culture, like the cultural osmosis, through shows like again Stranger Things, Big Bang Theory. But
Community.
it was like a very yeah, it was a very passing interest. I wasn't like really wanting to play the I want to sit down and play D&D because like in India it's not within our culture to like it's not even in a pop culture to play or even play something like D&D, right? We mostly play make
Yeah,
believe when we were kids. We like chore police or something like that, right?
exactly.
Stuff like that. But yeah, that's it. Yeah, again, then again, like it was a passing interest. So I didn't really pay much mind to it. I played a lot of games, like video, and
Narrative.
yeah, eventually I got into this little game called Divinity Original Sin 2, which is the
Isn't that
same, which is made.
Larian's previous game, right? It was before Baldur's
It,
Gate.
Yeah.
Yes, it is. It is a game made by Larian before Baldur's Gate, and I just one of my best. Like it is one like literally one of my favorite games of all time. So yeah, I spent hundreds, almost like 200 to 300 hours into it, and yeah, and whenever I get into some things, I like to overthink stuff like that, right? So usually, what I do is I go back and I research about how this game was made, who are the makers, how process and everything. I did that with the Witcher games. I did that with Divinity. I do that with a lot of stuff which I really get it. So reading those articles and some reviews, people were like, "Oh, this is the closest you can get to playing a D&D game or a D&D campaign." And I was intrigued by that because if I like this game so much, then I would probably love to play D&D, right? So that got me sort of into looking into D&D. But again, no one to play with. Like I, none of my friends were interested in D&D, so I had to go online. I had to search for servers and stuff like that. Went on to Reddit and tried to get into some servers through there, but the timing was just wasn't matching. So
Same.
I was like, yeah. So then eventually I found the Panic Room server, and it was dead. People weren't really actively responding at the time. But then I got into much larger servers like Basis and TPK, and that is where I played. I think I played my first session of D&D.
It's strange how much of a parallel I can find in your journey because I spoke about that in the previous episode. You know how it was so difficult for me to find people to play with, and I was getting up literally at 3 a.m., 4 a.m., and I didn't want to do that at all. Again,
Yeah,
panic not TPK,
yeah.
Desis and all, and then finally
Finally, Infinite Ever. Yeah.
finding the Infinite Diamond. Yeah.
Yeah, I actually got into Anurag's Curse Start game through Daisies, and then he eventually made TPK. TPK was sorry, Infinite Tavern. Infinite Tavern wasn't a thing back when we actually started the game. So yeah,
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so we had a separate server called the Blind Wolf Tavern where we had the game running.
Oh.
That was fun though, the campaign lasted for more than a year, and it just
uh,
at a point, people left a lot. Like, around the time, Void left this thing, he left a Void there, and there were, I think, 3 drops right after he left. In a matter of 2 days, there were 4 drops. I had to find new players, and it was yeah something I had to learn as a DM.
yeah,
So, yeah,
it's a common thing.
yeah, for as a DM, that is all the thing. But yeah, we still come back to DMing for some reason.
Yeah, yeah, it's it's the one. We'll get into it. I'll talk about like stuff about that too.
Because if people ask me, right, if I would want to DM or if I want to play, I would definitely choose to DM a game rather than play. I'm not a
Yeah,
good player,
yeah.
but I can, come up with any kind of story, any kind of crazy mechanic. But I cannot play for the life of. But yeah, what about you, Void? DMing or playing?
Oh, DMing for sure, for sure. As ever, like as soon as I knew that there was a role, okay, and when I got into these servers and I started to, watching YouTube videos and learning what a DM is and what a player is. As soon as I knew that there is a role for someone to control the world, right, and the NPCs and sort of run the world for the players, I was like, yes, I want to do that because again, like I said, right, I was really into lore stuff about I got into a lot of fantasy stuff like Lord of the Rings, The Witcher, some other fantasy series as well. I really got into its lore and how the world sort of what the history of the world was and stuff like that, and how the world works, how the world building works. One Piece is one of my favorites, and it's like it's a world building sort of galore. So I just really liked the idea of being someone who controls a world around the players. So yeah, I just really naturally gravitated towards that. But I didn't really DM for 2 to 3 months before. Like I was playing for 2 to 3 months. I played 3 or 4 one shots, and then I played some other a smaller campaign which was which we couldn't finish because of scheduling issues. But then I decided to just sort of run with it and run my own first session.
Yeah, you
Uh,
went on full
And
Thanos, and you were like, "I'll do this myself." That's all. That's how usually
yeah.
DMs are born.
Well,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
And in fact, before I started DMing, I was a player in both of your like mini campaigns, and both of your the way you constructed Anuraki, how you constructed Illithin, and how Void constructed the wizard, it was sort of mind bending for me because again I was still fresh blood at this point, still very new to the idea of DMing, still very not very new, but still a green player. But apart from all the Matt Mercers, Brennans, and Abria Angas of the world, I really learned a bit from you two as well, because only after playing in both of your games did I start to DM. So with that, like I would just want to know, because I now love DMing. Like it's something I really, really love rather than being a player. What is it that you like most about DMing, and DMing, OSRs or other TTRPGs, whatever you're playing at the moment?
What do I like most about DMing? Again, like I said, right, it's like the
The puppet master
being
thing.
someone, yeah, the not exactly, but like uh, at first, yes, at first, when I started DMing, I really liked the idea of running a world, making a world, running a world. So I started with Lost Mines, and it was Forgotten Realms. So I dug deep into that, read a lot of wikis and stuff like that. So Lost Mine was my first campaign that I ran. It was incredible. I ran it for some of my personal friends. Yeah, eventually I got into the larger space of TTRPGs. I just really like the idea of telling stories. Like ever since I was a child, right? Ever since I was a kid, I just wanted to tell stories. I realized that now when I'm saying this. When I was in school, I was really into like singing, a lot of like
Performance art.
performance art, yes, stuff like that. I was really into singing. I had a really nice singing, so I sung for a bit for my school. I even acted in stage dramas and dance dramas for my school. We went into like national competitions and stuff like that. Even won one of
Wow.
them. Yeah, and I really wanted to write something of my own after reading a lot of Tolkien and The Witcher and a lot of other favorite authors. I really wanted to write something, but I just couldn't. When people see that yes, you can be a writer, everyone can be a writer, everyone can be an actor. Sure, I believe that that's your experience, but my own experience is like everyone can be a GM. No matter who you are, where you come from, you can be a GM, right? And GMing is just another form of storytelling. Like you tell stories with your players, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I just really like that factor of it. I just like the factor of the GMing, that you want to tell stories, and you can just do it, and you can just do it with a bunch of people. Share that experience with a bunch of people, really awesome people. Everyone can be a GM, and it's like whenever you run one shots, right? You never think about it. You just gather a bunch of players who you probably never played with, never talked with before this one shot, right? And there's an instant connection. Instantly, you're in the zone. You're the GM. The players know their characters. You know the stuff you want to run, and you create a story in that 4 hour session, and it's amazing. And it's like some of it's like really memorable, some of it's really good, some of it is bad, but still, those are experiences, those are memories that you're creating, and the stories that you're creating. It's I just find that really, really, really profound for some reason. I know it sounds cheesy, but it's like very that type of storytelling is like very raw and personal, right? Yes, the novels and the games and the movies and everything we sort of consume as stories, we do it as an observer, right? Even when we're making it, we do it for ourselves, and maybe some of them we do it. When you're playing a TTRPG, you're making it up as you go, and you're having that experience, you're making a story, and to be able to facilitate that and be a part of that is what I like most about GME and TTRPG.
That was way more than I said last time, right? Like, and that's like a pretty well-rounded way of explaining exactly what we were thinking
Yeah,
about.
right.
That whole experience.
Yeah, because I started out as a DM, and like what you said, right? Anyone can be a GM if you have the story for it. Yeah, the mechanics might be a little tough. It's a learning curve, but you just get
It's a
better
learning
as
curve.
you keep going. It's like how Gustav says in Ratatouille: anyone can be a chef, no matter who you are. It's just like that. Anyone can be a
Yeah,
DM,
yeah, yeah.
no matter your origins. But yeah, my story though. The thing is, the DMing and D&D basically helped me through a lot of stuff, particularly because Void said he used to sing and perform on stage and everything. I had stage fright. Forget speaking in front of a stage. Speaking in front of five or six people was a tough task for me. I used to have a very bad stammer. I used to get bullied because of that in school. And D&D, basically brought me out of my shell. Writing stories. Me and my friend used to compete to write stories. It started out with some kind of cheesy horror story, and then it got developed into a series that I posted on Wattpad, an adventure series
Oh
actually,
man,
inspired by Indiana Jones.
you have to find
But
that.
Let's
I
find.
mean, you can find so it's kind of like to find this city of Shambhala or Shangri-La, the Atlantis of Hindu mythology. And after that, it developed into me currently writing, developing my own homebrew world, writing its own lore. I mean, I have a continent with moving primordials in it and cities built on top of it. And I actually, took inspiration from it from One Piece, the Zoo arc.
Yeah.
Instead of, a city on a massive elephant like in One Piece, in my campaign, my players will be going to it in the next session, that is tomorrow. The city is on a back of a massive gorilla. It's called Gorilla and Hold.
Oh, that's
Oh,
insane. Yeah.
And
If you've read like have you read Terry Pratchett?
I have.
I have not,
I
but
have
I think I know what you're talking about. Are you talking about
Discord.
Discord?
Yeah.
The
Yeah,
world
I'm
on
talking
top
about
of
this.
a
Tortoise.
Yeah.
turtle and four elephants.
Okay.
Yeah, I have read the first part of the first book, but I have a huge list I need to get through in order to get there. So I'm currently reading the Holly Black trilogy. After that, I'll be finishing up all the Percy Jackson books. I mean, the Rick Riordan books and Aragon, and after that is Terry Pratchett. There's a huge
Yeah,
list over
dude.
there.
I have a never-ending list of TBR. I don't even know if I'll be able to do it.
I don't have enough time to read it, and yet I keep buying new books. My bookshelf is,
Yeah,
it keeps filling up,
I'm
and
looking
my
at my
list keeps
bookshelf.
growing. But I never pick up a book and read. I don't have the time for it.
I literally had to buy a new bookshelf for all the new books I got, and I haven't read a single one of them yet.
Yeah, I'm looking at my
But
bookshelf right now, and like, yeah, it's like it's a mix.
anyways, so
More of
back to why I love DMing. So DMing actually, got me out of this, stammer. I mean, I still stammer sometimes, but it was not. It's not as bad as it was back then. World building was something that I love. Right, is something that I love right now. Just coming up with the most bizarre stuff. And I'm currently writing a book. A map is ready. The lore of this place is ready. It's just a kind of a writer's block right in the first chapter because the prologue is done. The first chapter is what I'm working on right now. And
oh, that's interesting.
the part about DMing that I love is the whole world building part. You create cities that have lives in it. You create NPCs that have their own life. You go to a different city and come back. Something might have happened in their life. It's not like, they just unpause where where you parted from them. You come back. They might have, maybe graduated from from college, or maybe gotten married or something else. Something might have happened. You create alive worlds for your players to go into, and that is one thing I love about D&D, DMing. And the next thing is coming up with the most crazy encounters ever. I mean, I've learned a lot from Brian Murphy, and I'm still learning a
Yeah.
lot from him too, in order to get the best encounters ever.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
hear you.
encounters have never been my strong suit, but yeah, I used to spend hours making encounters for 5e, dude. It was insane the time I put into encounters. Yeah, but I love it. But I love that that it helped you with your stammer, and because even as I say that I was into performing arts in school, I wasn't
Hmm.
really a social person. I just loved just performing. That's all. I didn't really make much friends while I was performing. Yeah, I mean, yeah, we would have acquaintances, and yeah, we like performing together and stuff like that, but I didn't really have really good friends while I was performing. But yeah, I wasn't really a social person in school, but yeah, DMing has really helped me with my English for one. Also my sort of, again, I just feel like I'm more of a social person now than I was before, and yeah, it's really good. It's really helpful.
No, that's what right. D&D actually helps people come out of their shells. It actually makes people a little more confident with public speaking. And
Yeah,
honest to say, it actually helped me out in my in job interviews. DMing D&D is basically a huge part of my life right now, and I'm actually glad I actually found that.
Great that you brought up real world implications via D&D or TTRPGs, because I realized that I had a lot of problem with improvising, with coming up with maybe a reply, maybe with a solution right at the moment, because I work in a field where sometimes you have somebody will throw you a curveball. And that's true for like literally any TTRPG where the players will throw a curveball. You want them to do something, they'll do the exact opposite of that, and you have to make shit up on the spot. You didn't plan for them to go down this road, Now they're going down this road. Now you have to make something up. So yeah, real world implications, keeping us on our toes is something that has definitely helped me when during your general full-time work hours. Whenever there is something, some issue has come up, some escalation has come up, how do you solve that? You improvise, you find a solution to that in that moment, see the best possible outcome, so that it is satisfactory for everyone involved in that, and they leave with something that, okay, we did something together. I mean, that
Yeah,
has
yeah, that's so great. A lot of people are also use D&D as a team building exercise now in
exactly.
offices. Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
they
I'm
do.
really glad it's actually gaining that kind of popularity, because when I tried to introduce the same D&D in my old workspace, didn't pan out that as I expected it. People were curious after they actually saw my D20 tattoo. Still, it did not pan out the way, but yeah, it's fine. So yeah, we've been talking about DMing part and all of that, why we love DMing. So I actually wanted to ask this question. What's your favorite DMing moment so far? What comes to your mind?
My favorite, dude. There's so many. There's so many. I have like
Yeah,
at the top of my
we
head,
have.
I have three. Like I can like immediately point to some of the best experiences I've had like playing TTRPGs and D&D. If you don't mind, I'd like to tell all three of them
Yeah, go on.
if we have time.
Go ahead.
Awesome.
Absolutely.
So the first one was a 5e one shot that I ran. It's a published adventure called what was it called again? Yeah, sorry, Murder on the Ebron Express. So it's like a murder mystery.
Mhm.
It's a play on Murder on the Orient Express, right? And but it's the Eberron setting. And I had 8 players in that, and you recently had that as well, like a bunch of players together playing. But yeah, I had 8 players in that, including me. There was 9 people in the VC, and we were playing a murder mystery, and there was PvP involved. Players had to figure out who was the killer because the killer was one of the players, right?
Oh.
And wow, that session went on for 6 or 7 hours or so, and it was amazing. We had some really, really amazing characters, really amazing players, and to my surprise, like I hadn't played with many of them. I hadn't played with most of them, like at all. I was playing with them for the first time. Uh, some of them I had played with 1 or 2 games with, but yeah, it was amazing. That one shot went on for 7 hours. Everyone was at each other's throat, and at one point I had to step in. I was like, "Guys, please calm down. This is a game. Let's not speak over each other." But yeah, they everyone just sort of again got into the zone, uh, like try to figure out who the killer was, and eventually we sort of ended up with them not finding the killer. But it was fun. It was such an amazing experience. We had really good characters, really really nice session.
When you mean not finding the killer, did you actually arrest the wrong guy, the innocent person?
No, there was a time limit, so
Ah, okay.
they had to find the killer before the train reached the station, right? The next
Huh.
station, because then the authorities would be the murder would be reported to the authorities.
Yeah.
So they had to find that within a time limit. So they couldn't do that. They were
Hmm.
really close. They were really close, but there's a lot of mechanics involved. Someone used gift of gab, and no, I no, nothing. But yeah, there was a lot of like mechanics involved. Like everyone was casting ridiculous spells to sort of hide their own secrets because each character had a secret that they didn't want to be exposed to the world. So everyone was
Interesting.
keeping secrets, which made everyone suspicious. Everyone was on the same playing field. So yeah, whenever people would sort of lean into, oh, this guy is probably the killer, that guy, that this person, that person is the killer. It was really fun. It was chaos. It was utter chaos, but it was one of my favorites. It is one of my favorite sessions that I yeah. And the second one is actually the game I ran with Aman. It is the entire game, the entire sort of mini campaign that we had. It
The
is
wizard.
yeah, it is a wizard that I have. It is again a published adventure. I tend to run a published adventure because I'm no good at writing adventures. I tried to, but it doesn't work out. But there are some really amazing writers out there, and I just love their work, so I just use their work to GM. Right, so a wizard is I forget the author's name, but it's a published adventure, and I ran it as this. weird fourth wall breaking eldritch horror game. It was still fantasy, but it was about this entity who had become self-aware, and it had known it was aware that it was something figment of someone's imagination, and that its lifespan started and ended with this particular game. So it used that information that, oh, I am something that will die after this game ends, so I will make sure that I don't do that, right? So, and then it was it was a lot of fun. I again, the players sort of just got into it, man. It's like Aman and everyone that I played with. We had this. I didn't really tell them much about the game before, and when I sort of revealed this stuff eventually through the fourth wall breaking and stuff like that, how their character sort of slowly realized that they didn't have any free will, that they were puppets of these eldritch creatures, which were the players themselves.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I played the players and the GM as like eldritch creatures, and it was a lot of fun. And without even telling them any of this, they just sort of took it and ran with it. It was such an amazing experience, and yeah, so that is the second one. And the third one I recently had was in a vampire game, Vampire the Masquerade. Love that system. One of my favorites of all time. It was too short. So the second session of this game, it was completely wild. So one of the characters, there's this thing called Masquerade in Vampire the Masquerade, right? Which is like the vampires, they want to keep their identity secret. They want to keep their things secret in the real world. So they sort of enact a masquerade. There are rules for it and stuff like that. And one of the characters broke the masquerade. Okay, and in a million years, I would not have thought of a beginning adventure to sort of end up with a character breaking the masquerade. It was utter chaos. They escaped like dying, and it was the consequences would be like much bigger if it was a campaign. But it was so much fun. It was utter chaos, and the post game discussions that we had the session was like 3 hours long, and we had a post game discussion of like 2 hours long of what would the consequences be of it. So yeah, those are my three favorite parts.
Aman,
I'm
what
sorry, yeah,
about
I
you?
took so much of your time.
No, 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 that's
Yeah,
okay. But before we continue, Vampire the Masquerade, the whole vampire thing. What is it like? I always wonder, is it like a darker Twilight or is it something more?
it's maybe yeah, it is a darker. I wouldn't say it's Twilight per se, but I'd like to think, I like to think of it like as a darker Twilight. It's like it is a it is called World of Darkness, so it's like a lot
Hmm.
of mature themes going on in there. So
Hmm.
yeah, it is about the main core theme of the game is sort of vampires dealing with their humanity and their monstrosity. Whenever vampires sort of do stuff in the world, whenever they interact with the world, right, there is a chance that a part of their humanity will be snatched away, and they will become more and more of a monster, right? And
Okay.
when all of your humanity is gone, you become someone unrecognizable, and your character sort of you leave the player, so has to give up their character to the GM, and there's like a blood hunt, stuff like that. So yeah, it's back and forth between the human part of the character and the vampire part of the character.
Okay. Got it. Got it. Anyways, Aman, what about you? What are your favorite parts?
Okay, this is a slightly tougher one for me, but it would be as a GM.
Yeah, that's what I'm
It
asking. As a
was
GM itself, not in
oh
overall
okay.
D&D. I'm asking,
Oh,
what's your favorite thing as a
it
DM?
wasn't actually in D. It was actually in Candela Obscura while I was running a game, and there was. I mean, there were three players facing their ex party member who had turned into this sort of eldritch monster, where instead of the face, it was just bones and sinew and dripping muscles and all of that. That was their face, and they were literally sucking the life out of one other NPC. And that monster was supposed to be one player who had dropped out. And I had
Seems
a very
fun.
simple.
This is what happened with my character, and then in Adder
Yeah, that's what I was
I
thinking. That's what I was thinking. Both of us work in very similar ways here. Our players
Yeah,
dropped. We just have a grudge against them.
all they had to do was I had given them something that they could kill the monster with, and they knew that. But for some reason, one player decided, hey, no, I'll throw a Molotov at the monster while there are two other one other player is grappling the monster and one other player is has it tied it to a rope and they're attached to the monster, and one of the, hey, I'll just throw a molotov at it, and they knew the
Of course.
consequences of that. But the other player was like, the rest of the players was like, yes, do it, do it, do it. I was like, okay, so you guys have some sort of massive like sadomasochism thing going on. I appreciate that, but the whole thing elevated to the next level because of the role playing that they were doing while it was all happening. Action, them doing a certain action, that is fine, that is well and good, and I really like that. But when you role play it, when the way they actually role played it by recalling their, and it was a one shot, and them recalling each other's relationships and their own personal lives and just shouting that all out in stream while the game was at the tail end of it, it just brought it to a perfect climax. The way the game ended, the way it was going to end. Actually, for me, that was like my peak GM moment when I got them to role play such a hearty scene. I still haven't gotten anyone to cry yet. That's still one of my goals, which I hope I'll get around to. Yeah, you Anorak has.
I
Uh,
did, I did.
uh, I have gotten them to get really scared and disgusted. So like those are ticked off of my checklist. But yeah, crying and happy also. Yeah, they've been happy. But yeah, crying is one thing in my checklist that I haven't gotten to, which I will eventually get to.
You know
I
what? You
think
know what? Can we go back to this one? I just realized that. Can we go back to this one question that you asked? Like, what do I like most about gaming? And I'm sure
Yes.
Anurag and Aman, both of you will agree, is watching your players become GMs and them having really good, experiences as GMing. It's just the best feeling in the world, right?
Yeah.
especially when they come
Mhm.
to you for tips, to
Yes,
ask
yes,
Oh.
ask you for guidance.
yeah.
Because I've had many people actually, come and message me directly, asking me, telling me that they want to actually start DMing, and they want to actually know what it is like, how you start. And I'm always happy to actually, give them these insights, because it's the best feeling in the world when they actually ask you for it. That means you are actually doing good.
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah. Like that's the report card.
That's the report card you need.
Yeah.
Yeah, yes, it feels really, really good. That you sort of, again, it might not be you, but there's some of that, there's some of that you realize, maybe, you know what, maybe it was me. Maybe it was me. Maybe it was someone else, but I'm really happy that you're having these really, you're having fun GMing. It's really good.
Yeah, and through all of that, playing with Anorak, and we didn't get to play Frenzy, which I really wanted to, but I at least got to make my character, Anorak's system, a D100 system, and I then played with U Void. Which was in OSR games, and that in fact led me to explore other systems like like Candela, which was it was still at its like playtest phase,
Quick start
and
phase. Yeah.
yeah, quick start phase. And then that when you said that you used to sing and perform in school, it reminded me, not reminded me, I have this game called an indie game called Velvet Generation, which is a musical or rock based RPG. Again, me discovering that something like that exists in the first place was mind blowing.
Yes.
Like
Yeah.
there's a rock RPG, like there's a rock music RPG, like a proper TTRPG out there. That was something very difficult for me to comprehend. But because I only knew about D&D, Call of Cthulhu, and I had heard of Pathfinder, but I found that like, okay, there are so many great indie games out there, and yeah, that was what I was going to ask you about. What led you to discovering and playing all these kinds of different indie games?
It's not really all that complex. It's like I just wanted a break from D&D because
Hmm.
I had run D&D for a year now, and I was in the middle of my Curse of Strahd, and I just really got burnt out by D&D because I used to prep a lot. Like I said, I used to build encounters for hours and hours and hours, and it was really unnecessary prep, to be honest. It was like I was really bad at prepping. I used to spend hours prepping, and that sort of just burnt me out on D&D. So I just wanted to take a break from D&D and maybe try something else for a while. So I stumbled onto this small game called Cairn. It's an OSR, or I don't know, NSR or OSR game. Yeah, it's a small game. It's like you can read it in 15 minutes. It's very simple rules. I
Yeah.
ran it with I ran it and it was like surprisingly, it went surprisingly well. I was like, I felt really good running it, and there was a total of 30 minutes of prep. I used to prep for, oh my god, I used to prep for more than 2 to 3 hours. It was really bad for me. So yeah, it's a total. I know it's a lot. So I prepped for 30 minutes, and that involved reading the rules and reading the dungeon that I wanted to run with it.
Hmm.
Everything done in 30 minutes, and I ran it, and I it was like a good 3.5 hour session. It was great. That just sort of opened floodgate for me for indie games, and other TTRPGs with like from bigger publishers like Call of Cthulhu and something like RuneQuest or Free League. Free League is one of my favorite publishers right now. Yeah.
Call of
Uh,
Cthulhu is amazing. It's
yeah.
such a good system, and it actually gives us free reign over a lot of things. The thing with D&D is you need to create proper stat blocks for everything. But with Call of Cthulhu, right, I took free reign over a lot of stuff. I actually ran a lot of one shots. I ran only one published material for Call of Cthulhu. Which was my first game, the first Call of Cthulhu game that I've ever run. Just so that I could get an insight on how the game is played. And I had this amazing player in most of my Call of Cthulhu games. He's also, we will have him as a guest. Don't worry, he is in our list. But
Hmm.
yeah, comes up properly dressed in a suit and a nice hat and all of that for all the Call of Cthulhu games. He
Nice.
switches on his videos, and whenever his character has a gun, he just pulls out a toy gun, and he does a really good RP like that. And for some reason, just out of fate, not my fault, his character dies. And in Call of Cthulhu, you know how it is very easy to die. You get like 13 HP. That's it. And
Yes.
best option in Call of Cthulhu, it's to run away. But yeah, when he dies, he just falls back in his chair and just plays dead for the rest of the game. Literally plays
Yeah, I
dead.
Yes.
know. So
Oh
good, so
my
good.
god.
Yeah. So
Dude.
again, it's like with D&D, you have to be very specific with the stat blocks and stuff like that. With other games, I felt like I could just improvise anything. Oh, I need stats for this. Sure, it's 10, 15, whatever. It has +3 to hit, and sure, yeah, and it hits or not, whatever, right? So it gives like indie games. They focus on their focus is something different, right? D&D's focus is something
Yeah.
different, and indie games focus is something different. So they're like much more personal, I guess, because when you read a lot of indie games, you realize that the indie games are made with a very specific vision that the author has of D&D or any other game that they offer, any other TTRPG that they want to run, stories they want to tell, right? So it shows in the mechanics. It shows in the mechanics, in the art, in the layout, and supplementary material they release for their games.
Mhm.
It just it's like, oh, this game is by Chris McDowell, a guy that I really admire in the OSR space. He's like made a really influential game called Into the Odd, which
Yeah.
has sort of trickled down into a lot of different games. It has become almost like Apocalypse World at this point. Maybe not as big as Apocalypse World, but like again, this game has spawned a lot of different games.
For sure.
And yeah, it's like I just love diving into different games and like learn from these people, uh, learn about like game design, learn about how mechanics affect stories, right, and how they can be used to like tell compelling stories. And you often see much more creative or rather innovative and evocative mechanics from indie games. uh, but yeah, it's they provide like a very different experience than D&D and than other.
I
No, yeah. And,
I did try a few games. I don't know if they're actually indie games or not. After Call of Cthulhu, in Call of Cthulhu itself, I started creating basically the stories based on popular urban legends. Particularly this one called the Bunny Man. An old urban legend where this guy dresses up as a bunny and murders people.
Mhm.
That one I did something on the Goat Man, the Moth Man, the Wendigo. There's this person called Mr. Pollen that I follow on YouTube. That guy gives out really good stories, and I just turn them into Call of Cthulhu one shots.
wow, that's amazing.
That's
I
a good
remember
hack.
I remember playing in one of your Call of Cthulhu one shot. It was about the mummers dance, and it was a song.
It was a song. It's one of my favorite songs. No, it's actually a
Yeah.
tradition in New England. where people dress up on Christmas as different people, and they go to every house and just party there. A very fun tradition, and I just turned it into a horror game.
It was. I'm getting goosebumps right now thinking about it. It was so horrifying, dude. It was so horrifying. I loved that. I loved that. Yeah,
Sounds like an
yeah.
A24 movie.
And
It was so
I
good.
I I will send you the link to that song. It's the Mamas dance by Lorraine McKinnett. And basically, what happened was in this thing, they I think the car stopped right in front of a barn, and they had to go into a house where they find everyone dead, and all of that. And after that, the next thing that I ran was something called Mouse Guard, where it's kind of like D&D, but you play as mice in smaller
Oh.
cities. You have boats made of leaves. Your enemies are cats, weasels,
Yeah,
and bigger
yeah.
rats and eagles and all of that.
Cool.
I
It's
did.
really
I ran a similar game called Mouse Ritter. It is so much. It's so good. Mouse Ritter. I even played Mouse Ritter with one of our friends, Steve, on stream, and it was so good, man. I just love that that feeling of like being mice and seeing a
Mhm.
cat like it's Cthulhu. When cat appears, oh shit, let's fuck off right now. Let's run away.
also, I ran this one called Kids on Bikes. That was really fun.
Oh
After I
yeah.
watched Mentopolis, I decided to run Kids on Bikes. Metropolis is
Oh
a
yeah, dude.
it's a series by Dimension 20.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Kids and
kind of
Bike
based on Inside Out.
is yeah. Kids and Bike is really good.
And
I just love the fact that there are different games, and I use this analogy a lot when I'm talking about like when I'm trying to convince my own players about like that trying different games because there are no one you only want to play D&D. So in video games, right? It's good. There are MMOs, and a lot of people play MMOs. MMOs
Mhm.
super again ESO like Aman you said you play ESO. Like, a lot of people play MMOs, World of Warcraft, Path of Exile, and stuff like that, right? And they spend thousands and thousands of hours into it. And some of them might play different games, some of them don't. But if you just play that game, gaming is that for you, right? But there's like so many games out there, single player experiences, multiplayer experiences. I just love that there are like different experiences that you can have in TTRPGs. Like you can play as teenagers in mask, like a super teenage superhero, sort of My Hero Academia kind of thing. You can play as children and kids on bikes, and you can play as middle-aged women in a really fun game called Brindlewood Bay. Uh,
Mm.
I heard of
it's a,
Brindlewood Bay.
Yeah.
But one of my favorite games that I've ever ran and even tried to play was Wander Home. It's just wholesome. It's just peaceful to play that.
I've been
Wonder
wanting to play
Home.
that for a long time. Yeah,
I can run it sometime. We could actually run it on the podcast itself someday. Wander Home is a
I
really fun.
I'd love to
And
play. I'd love to
the
play.
best part about it is there's no DM in it. Everyone collaborates to the story. Everyone plays an NPC. It's really fun.
There's a lot of GM-less. Yeah, there's a lot of GM-less games.
It's kind of like collaborative improv.
Yeah.
Ah. Yes, ending.
Yes, and
We've all had these experiences. I just create these games out of urban legends, and I've had so much fun with that. And along with that, we've all talked about your DMing style and Void's DMing style. So I just wanted to ask, what do you think is what's something important a DM must be considering while running these kind of games? Maybe for the new DMs out there, what tips can you give them? What's important that the DM must be considering? If you ask me,
to me,
I think I think the most important thing a DM could be considering is maybe player agency, because
yeah, for sure.
as a DM,
True.
as a in a TTRPG, as a GM, you cannot expect what the players might do. So you could be prepared for anything, and you cannot actually force a player to do something else other than what their character might do. And you need to be
Yeah,
prepared
yeah.
for anything. You can't actually force them to go a certain way. So I think player agency is something very important a DM must consider.
Yeah, I always say this whenever someone asks me for this. I mean, I've only been playing for like more than 2 years, so I don't really feel comfortable like giving out advice. But the only one advice that I follow and I sort of tell everyone to follow is like never prep for what you think the players are going to do, because you will
Mm.
never know. You can never know. So when you make that up in your head, oh, the players will now go to this because I will give them this plot hook. When you give them that plot hook, no, they'll be like, no, we don't want to go there. We want to go to that orc camp over there,
Yeah.
and we want to destroy them. That is going to happen, and it's like you spend they spend all the time thinking about these scenarios that your players are going to be. It's not going to happen. It's like you just when you're a GM. No, I learned this the hard way. You just need to let go of the reins basically and give the reins to the players. They will make the story for you. You don't have to do anything. You just have to be there and react to their choices. Like you will they will tell you who their favorite NPC is. They will tell you what their favorite sort of story hook or plot or whatever is of their favorite sort of uh, part of your game. So you can just push. You take that in and you push that. You like this NPC. This NPC is now in danger. Like he's gonna die. What are your players are gonna do now? Right? And you really like this political faction. Yeah, this political faction is like there is a rival political faction is trying to take them over. You do that. You give the reins to the players and they will tell you how they want the story to go. They will unknowingly build the world for you. They will make insane decisions and let them do it, because that is where the fun lies in GM. I believe so, because I believe very strongly that when you're the GM, you are not the storyteller. Everyone on that table is a storyteller, and you are a player as well. So have fun with your fellow players. Like, don't think of yourselves as, I need to dictate a story, or I need to give them these plot hooks, or I need to make stuff up that the players will do that for you. You just have to react to them.
Yeah, I mean, whatever you said, right? I experienced it firsthand recently when we
Mm.
were actually having this whole ship, airship crash down to the earth. And I thought, these people would just escape or just crash with the ship, and there'll be a blackout and they wake up and everything to find many people dead. But the players went very creative, created a wall of force under the ship for it to stand still, enough for the cleric to cast feather fall on 50 passengers to just land slowly.
Damn.
And
That's incredible.
there were two players who jumped off after the guy who did this with no parachute or without a feather fall spell or the ability to fly.
Awesome.
A druid and a bard. They failed to capture him
That's
because the other guy, plane shifted. So these people went very creative with that. I thought they will die, but because you're falling from 1,000 feet, that's what 100 d6 damage,
Oh man.
and that's the druid caught the bard, cast thunder wave at the ground, and thunder wave pushes people away, right? So
Yeah.
with that caused a break in the fall enough to reduce the amount of damage that the person will take. And then the druid, she just shapeshifted into one of the creatures I introduced in my homebrew world, a creature that can teleport. And she let go of him and she immediately teleported away onto the ground. That means she took no damage. That guy landed, and without turning into paste, he just landed and died there for her to cast Revivify on him.
Damn, bro.
Players come
That's
up with such creative ideas.
Yeah, dude.
And
It's insane.
as a DM, you just allow that. It's the rule of cool over there. It's way better than raw.
Another thing, I don't want to like take your point away from you. So another thing that I guess game prep is like what makes and breaks a game. But you have to know the amount of prep that you're going to do. Newer GMs, because I was a newer GM like only a couple years ago. I used to like I said, right, I used to spend hours and hours on game prep, and it wasn't really coming into play, and that is what really frustrated me. So I used to make insane encounters and they would never get, they would the players would never go there, or some stuff would happen that that sort of messed up the entire thing. Yeah, never. So it's like you have to know how much prep that you want to do, how much game efficient or game oriented prep, because there's a lot of people on YouTube and stuff like on other like blogs and stuff like that who can tell you how to prep better. There is an awesome channel called Sly Flourish,
yeah.
who also has a book called Return of the Lazy Dungeon Master. Who
Lazy,
really,
lazy. Yeah.
yeah, but that book is, I swear it's better than the 5e DMG, because it tells you how to prep for games, because the DMG does not do that. And I was like, I read through DMG and I was like, wow, dude, I want to run a campaign. How do I do that? And it doesn't say. So I read that book, and after that, it's been really, really good for like really good sailing for me, right? You just when you know how to prep and how much to prep for different types of games, because different games will require different prep, right? So something like an OSR game that I ran with Aman, the Wizard game. I used to sit down and I just play with them. No prep involved whatsoever. I ran that completely. I just read that adventure once, and then I had the PDF on my screen when we used to play, and that's all. I didn't prep for it at all during sessions, and it went really well because the players were having much.
Yeah,
But then something like D&D or Pathfinder or Call of Cthulhu, maybe you need some more prep for it. There are like narrative games which the one that I'm currently running is a called game called Tales from the Loop, which involves a lot of narrative stuff to happen. So you might want to write some stuff for that. You might want to write some scenes for that. So yeah, there's a different type of prep involved in different type of game. You just have to know what is the game oriented prep. Like I said, I don't prep for what you think players are going to do, right? You just with experience it just comes to you. This how to sort of efficiently prep for session. But yeah,
yeah. I mean,
that's what
Yeah.
I want.
while running actual published modules, right, I never prepped. The thing, I relied a lot on improv. But when it
Yeah.
comes to homebrew, when I'm running homebrew, I'm running two homebrew campaigns right now. That is when my prep comes in, because homebrew requires a little bit of prep, because you need to know what you have over there for your players to know what you have over there. For my Friday campaign, I do a lot of prep. I have a huge note, like a huge set of notes for my session so far. I keep everything properly organized. And for my Wednesday campaign, I have an amazing person who's helping me out, and she does a great job with this. Because I yeah, and with that help itself, I'm able to run these three campaigns.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I guess if you're really looking for, how do you prep for sessions, I guess the one thing I can tell you which has worked for me a lot is if you're running a sort of an open game like a sandbox game of some sort, or even when you're running linear games,
Hmm.
if you want to limit your prep now, if you want to do game oriented prep, always at the end of the session or during the week that you're not playing that game, just ask your players where do you want to go next. So sometimes you will know where the players are, right? So you prep that location very well. You prep the NPCs in that location. You prep that location. You like, we're good to go. Sometimes you might not know. You're left in a place where would my players go next? I don't know. So what do I prepare for? So just ask them, dude. Just like ask them where you want to go next, and they will tell you. And you just prep that location. You prep those NPCs. You prep that location, and it's really that simple.
What I usually do is I put up text RP sessions between sessions, and based on what their reactions are, I just expect to I just set up for three places where they might go, and other the rest of it I just
Ah,
improvise.
yeah.
Or honestly, if I don't have any idea, I just tell them that I don't have this part prepared, and they would understand. They know what it is like
Yes.
to DM and everything. They would understand. They are all
Yes.
we are
Yes.
also human, so
I actually had this happen in one of my very early games. Not very early in like D&D, but very early when I was like going away from D&D slightly. So I ran this game into the odd. It was the game the adventure that I was running came with the game. So I was running that, and it was a long sort of mega dungeon and some other hex crawly stuff, right? And the players didn't want to go into the dungeon today, and they wanted to go somewhere else and explore the tower over there on the land. So I was like, guys, I really haven't prepared that part. It's been a while since I've read it, so just give me like 15 minutes. I'll quickly read it, and then we'll begin. And it's like, yeah, and then we sort of resume the session from there. Yeah, you can always do that. You can just take a break and just prepare that very quickly.
yeah.
And yeah,
Aman, I've been cutting you off so much. Yeah, go on, please.
No worries, no worries. I was just taking a break anyway. Coming to Anurag, what both Void and you were the point you made about doing RP sessions in between, and just talking about DM advice. Again, I still consider myself very green, to DMing. But one thing I definitely have learned from way back from my first game that I DM'd was that you shouldn't take the shine away from the players. Sometimes
Oh yeah.
I've seen DMs get into the zone and they just start narrating and talking, and the players are just sitting and listening. That, and sometimes that's one thing. The players are running the story. I mean, you're just the facilitator, but
yeah.
the players are running the story. And the other thing is, sometimes some players are shy, so it might fall upon you to bring them into the story, by just asking them, hey, what do you want to do? hey, this character, what are you doing in this moment? Just even this, just few words can bring the player in. If somebody's feeling a bit maybe alienated, or maybe they don't feel like they can offer much, just these few questions can bring them back into the game, and have their moment of their own. So I guess very short to advice that, I mean, I learned from my first session, because those are the mistakes I did, and have since learned, thankfully.
Yeah, the
Interesting.
most the most important part is like you learn with every session. So even
Yeah.
if you make mistakes, it's fine. Like your games are never going to be perfect. Your games are always, there's going to be some small hints here and there. But again, you just learn as you go. You learn with your experience. You learn with your mistakes, and you just try to make the next session better. That's all.
Yeah, I mean, that's one thing I also do is I ask players for their feedback after the game. Hey, how did the session go? Where do you think it was good? Where do you think it was lacking? So, I mean, that way it also gives me a lot of pointers for me to prepare. Oh, this person likes this kind of thing. Maybe they like combat more. Maybe I'll not design, maybe I'll think of an encounter next time. This person likes role play more. Okay, I'll bring their backstory into it a bit more. So, those even those hints off session or feedback, if I ask it and they give it to me, then that also like improves our
I
GMing a lot.
I actually go for review sessions every 5 sessions in my campaigns. So currently I'm in like the 23rd session of my Friday campaign. So 2 more sessions later, I'll be asking them for reviews again. So my reviews, right, they basically contain like what 6 questions. So I ask them about the
Hmm.
pacing, like how fast the session is going, and if you're enjoying the pacing, and or are you like looking forward to something a bit more relaxed. And I ask them, if
Hmm.
the adventure, the story elements in the adventures are a bit boring, or are there any aspects that are not fun? And I ask them about how the world is built, and if they have any complaints about the world, then what they can think of
Hmm.
the NPCs and their interactions. And
Yeah.
the most important question that I ask them is, if they feel like attending the game is a chore or is something that they look forward to. And finally, I
Yeah.
ask them if they have any stars and wishes. Stars being what they
Do they
like,
have
and
any?
wishes being stars and wishes.
Yeah.
Stars some what they like, and wishes being what they want. So this one actually helps me keep in track of what they're enjoying and what I need to cut down on, so that they'll have the best time ever. Because as long as the
Yeah.
players have
You know
fun,
what?
DMs have fun.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah, definitely. You know what? I'll now that you've said it, I'll do that in my games too. Usually, I ask for GM sort of game feedback after the game, like any stars or wishes. I always say any stars or wishes are more than appreciated. But yeah, you know what? I'll do that. I don't run many long running campaigns, so but yeah, every 3 or so sessions, I'll probably start asking my players all these questions.
I'll
Thank you
send you
for
the
that.
list of questions.
Yeah, please
Yes,
send me
please.
that as well. And
Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
for those who are
But
listening, yeah, this is what we have.
so that's what then my next part comes to. So what's your approach to world building though? When you like, I'm sure you built some homebrew worlds for your games, any that you've run. So what do you usually go for while doing this whole world building part?
Um, I usually run pre-written adventures, so most of that stuff is done already for me. So I have an idea of what the world is like that the players are going to be in. But I like to keep certain things open. So when I started off, I used to world build like top down, right? Now I do bottom up because I realized that world building, as much as I love it, takes a lot of time, and I just don't, people just don't have that sort of time, and I certainly don't. So I like to keep certain things, open for players and me to fill in later, right? So currently I'm running this game. It's like a standard old school sort of DN. Not exactly. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I guess you could call it old school D&D adventure. It's like you players need to travel to a certain point, and there's a dungeon that we need to go into. I've made this very open-ended sort of dying earth. Dying earth is a setting actually. So I use inspirations from the fantasy stuff that I've read, right, or the other stories that I've read. So dying earth is this setting which like usually inspired D&D actually. So dying earth is about this earth in like thousands of years in the future, which is our own earth, which is like again dying because of a lot of stuff. The sun is getting larger and climate is all shit.
Uh,
So I took that, and I had this other game that I ran about. there was this concept about two cities, like the Eastern City and the Western City. I call them twin cities in that game. And yeah, I just sort of have this sort of vague things, right? I have the very vague overworld things. So the Earth is dying. There are two cities which are the most important cities in the world. The rest does not matter. Your characters are from these cities. They have traveled to this place to gain some fortune. And the other stuff the players come up with when they make their backstories, sure, that's canon. When the game happens, something comes up. I just maybe think of something, or the players might think of something that just happens, right? So that is now canon in the world. So I like that approach. I sort of evolved into that approach now. I take a very hands-off approach now to the world building. So the players will come up with stuff during the games, and sort of that becomes canon. Sometimes I will, right?
Interesting.
So while focusing on these micro details, now when you're actually playing the game, when you're focusing on micro details of the world that players interact with rather than which they don't, right? So there's this whole thing which about the history and this whole location that the a very interesting location that you built, but the players won't go there unless you want them, unless they want to, or unless you want to, or whatever. So they won't be interacting with that. What they will be interacting is the stuff that you're playing right. So focusing on these micro things and building the world through that is, I think my approach that I've really sort of grown into. Uh, as much as I'd
Okay.
love to build a world sort of from the top, and I love that stuff.
Hmm.
I'm sure you do too, and Anurag and Aman. But it's like it's too much work.
Yeah, I like that collaborative approach that you take. Like everybody owns that game then.
Exactly. Yeah. Then your players are more invested in the world because they are a part of it. They've built a part of it.
With all this indie games you run, is there any particular favorites that you might recommend? Like we talked about a bunch of them, Wonder Home being my personal favorite in a bunch of I like in game the TTRPGs that I've run. Like mostly I've run D&D, but yeah, Wonder Home is one of my favorites as of now, after Call of Cthulhu, of course. But yeah, what are your personal favorites? Something that you would recommend new beginners or beginner DMs or players to play.
Beginner DMs. I would. So D&D is, I think, the most.
I mean,
Um,
by beginner DMs is we have to begin somewhere, right? We cannot just begin without a DM, any game. So what I mean is like,
yeah.
any indie games that you would actually recommend with the amount of run that you run. Any recommendations that
Oh,
you have or personal
yeah,
favorites?
for sure, for sure, for sure. But yeah, again, it's like I wouldn't really recommend these two like beginner DMs. But if you're already DM and you want to go into different TTRPG systems, I'll sort of give that to you. So there's this one game called Into the Odd. It's a rules incredibly rules light. You can run through its rules in like 5-10 minutes or 15 minutes at most. It has this really cool setting about the settings built into the system. It's this really cool setting, a steampunk sort of setting where the aliens are invading, but the aliens are these strange creatures. They're not like your typical X Files or whatever aliens. They are
Hmm.
very sort of if you've seen Annihilation, it's kind of like that.
Okay.
It's very strange and very
It's
it's
odd.
really cool. Yeah, it's odd. It's odd. Yes. But yeah, it's a really nice system. It's a really robust system. Even though it's like there are like 10 or so rules in that system. Okay, but you can run a campaign with that system like very easily. It has a really nice magic system. It has really cool sort of robust rules that you just pick up and you just start running in like minutes. Like you have something in your mind, you take the rules, you read the rules, and you just start running, right? So if you're looking for a game that you really want to run on the fly, Into the Odd is great. And it's also great for like longer campaigns. I ran a game with Into the Odd, Wizard, for one, and another one that I ran was it went on for like 9 or 10 sessions, so it's good for longer play as well. There's something called Dungeon Crawl Classics. It is a D&D variant, I guess. It is an OGL game, so the mechanics are a lot similar to D&D. So you roll a D20, you add modifiers, and you try to beat a DC. That's it. But the DCC is different in the sense that it is very gonzo. It's like very over the top, and it's like beers and
Hmm.
pretzels game. So basically, it's like it's not meant to. The book tells you to not take itself seriously. It is meant for you to just hang back, relax, and trust the dice to tell the story, because the dice, it's really insane that this game, the magic system is hilarious. some of the adventures that they've written is so over the top. They just don't take themselves seriously at all. But at the same time, they do. They want to make sure that you have a lot of fun with their adventures. It's really a gonzo system. It's over the top. It's really fun. You just meant to have fun with it. Maybe you can have some sort of emotional stuff, emotional sort of storytelling with it, but it's really there to be you have beer bottles, you have a bunch of snacks, and you just want to play a game, and that this is what you run, right? DCC, Dungeons Crawl Classic. There are other games, narrative games that I like. One is Tales from the Loop that I'm currently running a campaign, and it's been going strong for like 12 or 13 sessions now, for a long time. It's a really, really nice game about kids in the 80s trying to solve like mysteries. It has a Stranger Things vibe. It has that sort of Goonies vibe, but it's the setting is very unique. As in, it's the 80s, but like it's a different 80s. It's not exactly the same 80s as the one we had. So there's this thing called a loop, which is run by a company called Rick Synergy and everything. And this loop is this sort of underground office space, and where a lot of different experiments take place. And your town is on top of this sort of particle accelerator. So a lot of different anomalies happen in the world, which these kids are like, oh, we want to solve this mystery. What? So there's artificial intelligence, there's robots, there's like flying ships there's like flying ships in there, but also at the same time, a Macintosh has just released, and there are no cell phones. It's like retro sci-fi, and I really like it. You play as kids in it, and it's really, really fun. Another one is Vampire the Masquerade. Like I said, one of my favorite games that I've run. Incredible game. The mechanics are so good, and the stories that you can tell with it are so vast. You can tell emotional storytelling. You can have this sort of fun, light sessions with it as well. A lot of wide range, and the lore is there. If you like, if you were, because I was, if you were into alt culture and the vampires and stuff like that, it's the game for you. It's the game for you. Just give yourself a favor and just sort of read through at least the book if you were into that sort of, if you are remotely even interested in vampires and alt culture, it's the game for you. And even if you're not, it's a lot of fun. And the two games that I've recently read, but I haven't run, but they're my favorites in terms of like the mechanics and stuff that I would love to run is this one game called Cities Without Number. It is a cyberpunk game in the sense of like it is like very stripped down version, and it is built upon like the original like 9740 D&D, but it has evolved a lot. So the character creation is super cool. There are no classes. You just basically pick a lot of different things, and I would love to run something in that. And there is one thing that we talked about, Aman, recently called White Hack 4.
White Hack, yeah.
Yeah, amazing system. It is a system where there are no races or classes. You just make characters through your character concept. I mean, there are classes, I guess. There are three very broad classes. They're just strong, deft, and wise. So that is like, with strong you can make all sorts of
Yeah.
characters. Then you just have your character concept and you make your character around it. And I just really love that idea. You can run a lot of different types of games with it, and I would love to run something. So yeah, those are my recommendations. All the stuff that I like.
Amazing, amazing. Aman, do you have anything else to add?
Yeah. With regards to indie games?
No. To
Oh,
the what we're supposed to talk
yeah.
about. Yeah.
If I start talking, we'll be here all day. So before we come to the end, I just want to run something by you. I'll say an opinion, one after the other very
It's
quickly, and you have to
yeah.
say you agree or you disagree.
It's basically
Okay.
rapid fire, agree or disagree.
Yeah, let's go. Let's get controversial.
Yeah. I mean, some of it might not be as controversial, but we have to start somewhere. Okay.
I'm ready.
Let's okay. Let's go. 1, 2, 3. Sorcerer is the most overpowered class.
No, disagree.
OSR is better than 5e.
Agree. Wholeheartedly agree.
PvP should not be encouraged as much as it is.
Agree. But it's a much larger discussion, but agree.
TTRPG online is better than in real life.
Agree. I've never played in real life. So my biased.
Anurag is just shaking his head like no. Okay. Last two. Indie publishing is currently better than officially published adventures.
Yes, much better, miles better.
Okay. Last one. Railroading is absolutely not okay.
Agree, wholeheartedly agree.
Okay, that was it. These were my 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 agree or disagree questions. And I guess I can only get more controversial from here. These were like very tame, very just,
Okay,
just like sort of
because
me ice breaking.
I myself have some things I could argue about, especially near the what the railroading part and the PvP part. But yeah, I
Yeah,
think
I mean,
that is a
we can
discussion.
get into that discussion. Yes, that's a discussion. Those are like two topics
But
that are
That's a
much.
whole podcast episode on its own.
that's
Yeah,
a whole episode on its own. But yeah, I think right now we are reaching the end of this episode. So we've had a lot of fun, and yeah, we've had a lot of insights into our indie games as well. So first of all, Void, thanks or Tanmay, thank you for actually agreeing for this. You are our first guest on this podcast, and it's been it was really fun recording with you. And yeah,
yeah,
thanks
dude.
for
I mean,
agreeing to do this.
yeah. I mean, you're some of my favorite people in the community that we have, and of course, I had to agree. This is really exciting that you guys are like sort of going into streaming. You guys are going into podcasting. I love that sort of stuff, and I'm really happy for you. And I bid you all the success in this like new field that you're getting into.
Thanks, man. Uh, but yeah, all right, listeners. So if you have any questions or anything, you can just post it in the comments. I think Spotify actually allows you to post comments and questions. Yeah, I think for now this is it. This is the end of the episode, and until the next time we meet, hope your dices are dice. Why do I keep saying dices? It happened in the previous
Dice.
episode as well.
So
Hope your
dicey.
dice all
Right.
roll nat 20s, I guess.
You may your dice rolls ones if you're running OSR and D100 systems as well. Call of Cthulhu ones are great.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But let's just say that may your dice rolls be great.
Yes.
Yeah, and yeah, I'll see you all next week.